Uh-oh. No, I haven't gone away yet. I guess I better do a little intro here. The stuff I'm about to show you is leftover from my 100th, possibly 101st video. And it's stuff I didn't include in that video because, well, it was getting too long anyway. But here I'm about to show you some really ridiculously oversized pocket knives. Listen and have fun. One, not a switchblade, but it flicks open. I bought this at a time in my life when I was starting to get more into sword collecting, and I decided to start a sub collection of things. I made like a pegboard, kind of pegboard, sort of sub little brack, and put a bunch of things on there. Mostly stuff that aren't considered weapons, but weapons that would be used by street thugs from the 1920s to 1950s. Things like baseball bat, brass knuckles, ice picks. I couldn't get a real switchblade at the time, so I got this close thing I could get. Chains, all kind of stuff you could think of. Anything that wasn't firearms that we used as a weapon on the streets, I had on this thing. I still have most of the stuff from the collection, it's just not in one place. But I thought, this is pretty big. You know, it's almost the size of my hand. Some are smaller. It's not the best quality. Bought it from Bud K, but it looks cool and it sounded about right. But more recently, I decided to go bigger. Boom. What is this? It is a novelty knife, also from Bud K, but we'll put that in comparison. This thing is very large. Is it practical? No, it's really a novelty. If you hold it here, you'd get a pretty good reach on it, but the problem is the release is here and it'd be too easy to squeeze it with your hand. But if you could maybe keep your thumb at the back so you want it maybe. But the other issue is you can kind of see the pin there, which is not huge. So if you hit something too hard, I don't trust the quality of this not to snap. But a better made version of this would be pretty sizable. And if you look at the back, you can tell those scales don't actually line up perfectly. Wasn't very expensive, but it's a pretty cool little novelty joke thing. Although some knives in history, especially some of the Spanish folding knives, I don't know how to pronounce them, we begin with a C, and some of the French cricket knives were this kind of size, so it's not ridiculously so. Now, normally I carry about a 4-inch pocket knife blade. This one was slightly bigger. I bought one time, but it started to fall apart after a while of carrying. It's pretty big compared to, that's probably a 5-inch blade, I guess. So it was getting to be bigger than most of the ones I carried, and I liked it just for its size. It felt substantial, but I went back to carrying a smaller knife because they're more convenient. And this one, like I said, I put leather here because some of the screws came out. And bit of advice: if you ever buy a not too expensive knife, drip super glue on all the bolts before you ever start carrying it, and it's less likely to come apart from wear and tear. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, moving on. I wanted to collect, just like I had these two, smaller and ridiculous. I said, this is kind of big, but not ridiculous. So eventually, well, actually, I bought this one second, but this one I had before. You can see in size comparison there, it's a little bit bigger. I put that notch on the side so I can kind of kick it open and flick it open. Now, that's a pretty big knife. Look at that. You could hold it like this. That one's countersunk, so you wouldn't guess you could hold it like that. And that's in a Bowie knife size, pocket Bowie knife of sorts. It's still pretty cheap, and it had a brass pin originally. You see there's a nail I used there to replace it one time, because when I was flicking it open, that brass peg did not hold up to the weight of the blade swinging. It went boom. Fortunately, no one was in the room near the direction it flung, but it was scary for all of us. So with a blowtorch and a nail, I fixed it. But this is bigger. So this was not big enough. This had to be more like this. So I went out and found this one, another Bud K. It has the B on it there, like the French like. But this one, yes, this one. Now there's a knife. That one is pretty huge in comparison even to the slightly big one. I mean, you can tell that's a hefty bit of difference in size there. So this is the ridiculous, what the hell do you need that for knife? And that is countersunk a bit. I mean, it's not perfect. You can see a little bit of, maybe you can see it, yes, a little bit sticks up just from mass production, but it is pretty hefty. Now, it does again have that, you can see it there, the steel peg, but it's a fairly small peg, so I don't think I'd trust this for a whole lot of hacking or anything. But if somebody were ever to drill that out and put a bigger peg or make one of these just better, you could use it. It's essentially a pocket sword. I mean, look at that. That's my arm. You see, it's as long as my arm there. So that I would consider a pocket sword, a folding pocket sword.
Okay, so there you go, folks. that is my leftovers from my 100th, possibly 101st video. Hilson, and good night.